Caroline Mackie, Director on the Board of Partick Thistle Football Club, many thanks for your time today in our latest interview in this series. The starting point today, as always, is for you to tell Thistle supporters a bit about yourself, please. Firstly, your journey as a Jags fan, and then a quick summary of your professional background.
Okay. My journey as a Jags fan started about 20 years ago when I moved to Scotland from England to move with my now husband, who was a Jags fan and had been from a very early age, following the family tradition as most young fans do. So that's where I began. When the kids were younger, obviously I didn't get to every game, came along as often as I could, and really got more involved back in maybe 2010. Was coming along to most of the matches, home and away. And then in 2019, the women's team approached us and asked if we'd become their first ever main sponsors. They were doing well, progressing through the leagues, becoming more of a professional outfit. So we agreed that we would be their front of shirt sponsor, which we've done for the last 4 years. Moved to back of shirt now, but we've always been one of the main sponsors for the women's team. And then COVID hit in 2020 and everything stopped, and I felt there was a need and a desire by the fans to have some way of helping the club out during COVID. So I set up a GoFundMe, which in the beginning I set a bar of maybe 10,000, but eventually we actually raised just under £90,000, which was an absolutely phenomenal effort from the fans. I set it up, but it was the fans that made it happen. I did a little update every week for people, and I think probably in the end they were like, oh, here she goes again. But it had the desired effect, and as a result of that I was also presented with the McRae Supporter Recognition Award during lockdown, which was a great honour to receive. Moving on from there, because of my involvement in raising money through the GoFundMe, the working group that was set up to take Colin Weir's shares, I think felt that I was a face the fans could trust and could associate with, and they asked if I would go on the working group just to help them build towards receiving the shares that Colin Weir had bought for the fans to own and to work towards fan ownership. So I went on the working group, which ultimately became the Jags Foundation. So I was one of the initial directors on the board of the Jags Foundation, and that then unfortunately led to a dead end back at the middle of last year. So we stood down, and the rest is history to where we are today. But again, when the old board stood down, the Jags Foundation asked if I would be their nominated representative on the board of directors, which I was honoured to do, and that's where you find me today, as well as obviously still working with the women's team and quite heavily involved with the women's team as well.
So when you came up 20 years ago, you didn't really know what you'd let yourself in for?
No, I didn't know what I'd let myself in for, but I'm very pleased to be where I am today, so very grateful.
Fantastic. And just touching on your professional background, what's the business that obviously sponsored the women's team as a first? Tell us a little bit more about.
We've also done player sponsorship over the years. It's MAS Electrical and Security Systems, which are mainly a street lighting business. We do general electrical and security and stuff as well, but predominantly in street lighting. I do a bit of everything within the company. I'm a director. My husband does the hands-on stuff, but I do most of the office-based tasks and work involved.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent introduction, and I know loads of the fans that will be listening to this and watching it will remember in particular that GoFundMe fundraising drive, which I think just about everyone at one point donated something to, so it's an actually absolutely very important intervention at that time for the club, so thanks again for that. In terms of where you are when you're not in the director's box, of course, at Thistle men's and women's games, because you're pretty much an ever present, apart from days like Sunday when there's a direct clash, where can fans meet you? Where can they find you in both stadiums?
I would generally be found in the Jackie Husband stand. Dave's had the same seat since 1994 when the Jackie Husband stand was built, and been a season ticket holder since then. So we sit around the halfway line, about halfway back, so brilliant view. At the women's game you'll find me pretty much anywhere. I'm hovering at the gate at the start of the match and watch from there, and then watch from the sidelines and sit with the match sponsors during some of the games. So generally you'll find me here, there and everywhere.
Excellent. Now back to the business of the football club, of course, and you and your fellow directors have been extremely busy in all manner of matters off the pitch since the end of last season. What's been your own sort of focus in working and supporting the new board?
Probably up until the last few months we've all had a hand in pretty much everything that's been going on. In the last couple of months it's become more focused. My responsibility will be for staff wellbeing, making sure that they're happy and that everything's going as they would hope it would, alongside child wellbeing and protection as well, working with Kit and Fiona Atkinson, who look after that aspect of the running of the club. So I'll be liaising with them on a regular basis, just making sure that, as well as being protected, the children have a great match day experience, the mascots, the ball attendants, young fans attending the matches all get the experience that they deserve. And I'm also obviously the liaison between the men's team and the women's team, so that part is obviously important as well.
Plenty to keep you busy.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's worth acknowledging, I suppose, during your time as a Thistle supporter and ultimately board director, the focus on under 16s and children coming to games. And we've seen only just this week that at Stuart Bannigan's testimonial, under 16s are going to get free entry, so it's become very part of the ethos of the club, and we're all the better for it.
Yeah.
Is there anything so far, I know it's an ongoing process, the work of the board so far, that's given you the greatest satisfaction to date?
I think probably the fact that we've now finally got fan ownership over the line, with the trust deed being amended so that the Jags Foundation and the Jags Trust are now corporate trustees alongside the trustees of the Partick Thistle FC Trust. And I think that's really helped to galvanise the fan base as well, because I think all the fans now feel that they have a place within one or other of these groups, so they will really have a say going forward. I think it will be important for the everyday running of the club that they get a say in the important decisions, and that's probably the thing that pleases me most.
Excellent. And then touching on, as you said, your role with the women's team, the journey they've been on, especially in recent years, just thinking to when you first became front of shirt sponsor to where, Brian, with the support of you guys, has taken the team to now, you must be absolutely delighted. What's your kind of experience been in perspective during that upwards journey?
I think it's the progress they've made. A club that's only been in existence for 10 years, last season finishing top 6 of the SWPL1 is phenomenal. When I joined and started helping, I'd help here and there on the committee, just doing odd bits and bobs that I could help with. Whereas today we've got a proper board, all with our roles and responsibilities. Everybody takes it very seriously, and we're all very professional, as are the girls and Brian and all the backroom staff. And it's just night and day really from where it was just 4 years ago when I started helping out. Even to the extent where last week they've actually appointed me as CEO of the women's club. So a very important role, and one that I hope I can do justice to. But the girls, they are so together. They play for each other. They've all got full-time jobs, but they relentlessly just Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays training, Sundays playing, for the love of the game more than anything, with the majority of them, because they want to play, but they know that the jobs they have are important to them as well. So this is their way of doing both. And it's just an amazing club, and I love working for them.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on your appointment in that role, and secondly, I guess we'd all encourage any Thistle fans who've not tried out the Petershill experience on a Sunday. We know time at the weekend can be precious for all, but come up and give it a try.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, having served on the board of the Jags Foundation, as you mentioned earlier, you as much as anyone appreciates the importance of that relationship between the club and supporters. How excited are you then by the next phase of the club's fan ownership journey?
I'm very excited. I think that there is a great opportunity here for the three bodies that have come together, the Jags Trust, the Jags Foundation and the Partick Thistle FSE Trust, to galvanise the support, and I think that they will just continue to grow, and that the amount of money that they can bring to the club, they've already supported a great pledge for next season, but I think that will just keep growing, and I think the sky's the limit, so I'm very, very excited.
As are we. As a Thistle Board Director, member of or now CEO of the women's team, not to mention sponsor, you're very well placed to call to other prospective sponsors and tell them just how impactful a partnership with the club can be. So it does almost go without saying, but we'd love more like-minded businesses and people like yourself to talk to us, to join the club and support this wonderful football club.
Yeah, certainly the club can increase brand awareness. With fans like Thistle have, I think they really get behind anybody that shows love for the team and sponsors the team. With good community involvement as well, I think that will encourage companies that have the same ethos as the club does to get on board and join up, and the club can really make a campaign that will suit prospective sponsors' needs to reach the market that they want to get into. So I think that anybody would be wise if they want to get into sponsoring a club. None better than Thistle.
Hear, hear. Well said. You'll be delighted. We're now at the final question, and it's one I've started and finished all the interviews so far with in the same way. So I won't break tradition today. The final question is simply, what is your own message to Thistle supporters this week?
I think my message to them is just keep doing what you're doing. They have just been outstanding, especially in the last 9 months, in the run up to the playoffs, in the playoffs themselves, in the closed season, buying season tickets and merchandise, new sponsors coming on board. It's through the galvanising of the fan base with all the changes that have happened and the thoughts of what's to come. But certainly they've been outstanding, and just more of the same, please. Trust us. We have the best interests of Thistle at heart, and I know that maybe there have been a few rocky roads in the last few weeks, but certainly I believe that Chris has the makings of a good team. They just need to gel, and once they do, I think again we'll be pushing for promotion this season.
Fantastic. Perfect way to finish. Thank you very much, Caroline, and we'll speak to you again through the season.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks.